You probably clicked on this video because you're wanting to get into photography and wanting to get into weddings, but you don't know what exactly to buy to shoot your first wedding. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you the bare minimum of gear that you need in order to shoot your first wedding to the point where you're not going to be lacking anything. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. The first thing you're going to need, obviously, is going to be a camera. Now, the camera brand that you go with is not going to matter. It can be Canon, it can be Nikon, it can be Sony, it can be Panasonic, it can be Olympus. It really doesn't matter. Just make sure you get a digital autofocus camera. Doesn't matter. DSLR, mirrorless, it doesn't matter. I prefer mirrorless, but if you go DSLR or mirrorless, it really doesn't matter. Now, a lot of people are going to say you can't shoot a wedding unless you have full frame, and you can't shoot a wedding on crop sensor. That's not true at all. If you get crop sensor or you get full frame, you can shoot a wedding just fine with either or. If you know what you're doing and you know how to use a camera, you understand the exposure triangle and everything like that, you're not going to be having issues working the camera. Now, there are some technical aspects to full frame and APS-C that are going to differ, but in the grand scheme of things, if you know what you're doing with the camera, it doesn't really matter what you go with. But one of the things that is going to matter when you're choosing a camera is that you need dual slot cards, dual slot SD cards. Some cameras are going to have one SD card or one SD card and one CF Express type B or type A. That's fine too, but you want two sources of backup or two sources of storage in your camera. That's because redundancy purposes, so if one SD card's failed, then you have another SD card to go with. Chances are, if you're shooting a wedding for the first time and you're thinking about like what's the absolute bare minimum of gear that I can bring to a wedding and not have any issues, you probably are only shooting on one camera body. And if that's the case, then you definitely need to bring extra SD cards. And what you're gonna do with these SD cards is that you're going to switch them out every period, if you will. So if you go in and you shoot the getting ready, after the getting ready, you're gonna take card 1 out and replace it with a new SD card. And then you can leave card 2 in the entire day. But card 1, it switches every period. So after getting ready, you switch it. After the ceremony, you switch it. After the reception, you switch it. After the first look, you switch it. And this is for, like I said, redundancy purposes. So say at the end of the day, card 2 just goes kaplunk. Now, instead of, you having, or let's say both your SD cards at the end of the day, just corrupt, don't work, you at least have the entire day on a bunch of separate SD cards versus you shooting on one set of SD cards the entire day. And that's just to protect you, and so you're not, nobody's talking about you and saying, oh, he lost or she lost, all my pictures, never booked them, and that's just gonna be all kinds of bad. So a camera, doesn't matter if it's full frame or APS-C, you need dual slot and you need extra SD cards. Also, you need extra batteries. I forgot to throw it in there. So you probably want to bring about 3 or 4 batteries to you on your wedding day, especially if you're only using one camera. If you're using 2 cameras, then you double that. But about 3 to 4 batteries per camera. Next thing we're going to talk about is the lenses. So if you are just getting into weddings and you're shooting your first wedding, chances are that you're only shooting on one camera body, like I said earlier. If that's the case, when it comes to lenses, you need a zoom lens. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people talk about primes, saying primes are sharper, get a nifty 50, it's the cheapest thing out there, and you can shoot everything with it. That's not always the case. You're going to be better off with a zoom lens because it's going to give you more flexibility when you're shooting. So say you're getting in the getting ready portion and you're on a 24-70, and say you're getting pictures of the groom or the bride, and then you see over here there's a candid interaction over on this side, and then you can go in, punch in a 70, get that real quick, go back to 24. Versus if you're shooting on like a prime 35, you're getting here and you go here and it's just a little bit too far away. So then you have to kind of go over there and get the shot, and then by that time the moment's passed. I just dropped my phone and all my notes were on my phone. 1 second. So basically, primes are not going to give you the same amount of flexibility as a zoom lens will be. Now, zooms are going to be, primes are going to be a little bit better in low light because they typically have lower apertures, but if you're only shooting on one body, you need a zoom lens, and that's non-negotiable. Now, depending on which brand you go with, you're going to have a selection of zoom lenses to choose from. I recommend a 24-70, and that's kind of like, you can pretty much do everything with that, and from, wide to tight. You get, you know, you can do everything with that. There is a 28-70 for Canon and Sony, which goes down to f2, but the Canon one is ridiculously heavy and they're both ridiculously expensive. They're both like $3,000. Chances are that's not going to be your first lens out the gate. You're shooting your first wedding. So look for a 24-70. I know if you shoot Canon, you only are stuck with Canon lenses, especially if you get full frame. If you get crop sensor, you have a couple different options to choose from. But 24-70, 24-105, or 35-150. Those are the lenses you're going to want to check, and you want to see if your camera system is going to be available with those focal lengths. So I think Tamron makes a 35-150. Samyang, I think, also does. 24-105, Sigma does, Canon does. So 24-105, 35-150, or 24-70. Those are going to be your best bets. Now, kind of taking a step back to the camera, I said it doesn't matter if you shoot full frame or APS-C. In reality, it doesn't. But when you shoot full frame, it does give you the ability to go into Super 35 mode or crop mode. So say you are on a 24-70 and you just need a little bit more reach for what you want to shoot. You can, you know, shoot into Super 35 mode, and that turns that full frame into a crop sensor camera. So depending on the system you shoot with, the crop factor is going to be either 1.5 or 1.6, and then you'll get a little bit tighter to the shot that you're getting. So just keep that in mind. But if you're only shooting a wedding with one body, definitely need a zoom lens. I always recommend shooting a wedding on two bodies, but chances are, like I said, if you're shooting for the first time, you're probably going to have one body. The next thing we're going to talk about for the minimum setup is a flash. You are going to need a flash. I don't care if you say, oh, I'm a natural light photographer, get rid of that. You're just saying that because you don't know how to use flash. You need to know how to use flash if you're talking about getting into weddings, because every wedding isn't outside. And at the end of the day, a lot of people say they're a natural light photographer, but they still don't understand light. Lighting is not just artificial lighting, it's also sunlight. How can you manage sunlight? Do you know how light works? Can you understand light? It's not just artificial, sunlight as well. So flash, always. You always need a flash. I will not go to a wedding without a flash, and it will literally ruin your life trying to shoot an indoor wedding, especially without a flash. And even outdoor weddings, I've used flash outdoors too. It just, you know, depends. But the flash that I recommend is, I'm always going to recommend a Godox V1. I think that's the best flash on the market. There is a Godox V1 Pro now. I've used it. I made a video about it actually. If you want to go check up here, as one of these sides, I think it's up here. I made a video comparing the V1 to the V1 Pro. And if you feel like you need that, then, you know, go ahead and get it. But I use the regular V1. But I also recommend, you know, Flashpoint. Flashpoint is Godox. They just have different names. So if you're looking for a Godox V1 in the Flashpoint family, it will be the Flashpoint X. They're same price and they work together. So if you get a Godox and a Flashpoint flash, they will, you know, work together, which is cool. If you don't want to go with the V1, I do recommend just the V series. So VA62, VA63, or V1. I recommend these because of the rechargeable lithium battery. And a lot of the other flashes and Godox, like the TT series, they're all AA batteries and they are trash. They are absolute hot dog water garbage. And with AA batteries, first of all, you don't even, like, you're constantly having to find batteries. It's just a headache. At the same time, with AA batteries, their recycle time is garbage. So with lithium batteries, the recycle time is a lot faster. The V1 at full power, the recycle time is a second. With the TT series at full power, the recycle time is like 2.5 seconds. So absolutely too long when you're talking about a wedding, capturing special moments. You need a flash that's gonna work for you like right now and right now. So V1, VA63, or VA62, those are the flashes that I would go with. I personally like the V1 because of the round head. I feel like it more evenly disperses light amongst a scene, and I think it's more flattering, but that's just me personally. I've been using the V1 for, I don't know, a long time now. So that's the one that I would recommend. But I do think wholeheartedly that you need a flash. And last but not least, you need a way to carry your camera on a wedding day, which I recommend you use a camera strap. And actually down in the description below, if you look, there's a link that says Coiro for photographers, and I'll recommend a Coiro strap. They have dual harness straps, they have single straps, and they're really good quality, really good, you know, leather quality. And you can go to that link down in the description and look and see all they have. I don't make any commission off that link, so that's just a link that I put on there because I believe in the product. I don't think I make commission, at least. I don't think. They didn't tell me I did, so I really don't know. But I do recommend Coiro straps is what I use. It's a lot easier to use a strap versus carrying around in your hands all day. I have accidentally forgot my straps at home and had to carry my camera in my hand all day. You don't want to do it. It's just a nightmare. It's a headache. You don't want to do it. So a strap where you can just have it hang by your side when you're not using it, or you need your hands for something, you know, that works too. Or if you want to pay a little bit more, you can go with the spider holster. I don't have any links for that, but they have single and dual slot camera holsters for a spider. And I like the spider holster because of the fact that it just sits on your hip and a strap just kind of dangles around a little bit. So, you know, that's kind of up to you, your personal preference. And what I've been using recently actually is a capture clip and a Pro Pad, Peak Design Pro Pad. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I definitely left it in the car, but I'll probably get some B-roll of it later. But basically, the Peak Design capture clip and the Pro Pad hooks onto your belt loop, and so when you're not using your camera, you can just sit it on your belt loop, and then you'll still have your hands free and stuff like that. So if you don't want to spend the $100, $200 that it costs to get a spider holster, you can get that Peak Design capture clip and Pro Pad. And it's basically the same thing. There's a little bit of difference between the two, but it's basically the same thing. So I think you'll be good either which way. But with that being said, that is the bare minimum of equipment that I believe you should show up to a wedding with, if you want to have a good day and not be second guessing and thinking all these other things and stuff like that. So just show up with these things: camera, dual slot, extra batteries, extra SD cards, zoom lens, and a flash, and you'll be good to go for your first wedding. And as you book more weddings, you'll be able to invest in more gear, more camera bodies, and your workflow will be a lot easier. But this is the bare minimum. So with that being said, if this video helped you out, like and subscribe to the channel. There'll be a lot more content like this where this came from, and I'm gonna holler at y'all next time. Y'all be good. Peace.